People have discovered they have siblings they had no idea about, or found one or both biological parents they didn't grow up knowing. African Americans have learned where their ancestors came from in Africa. A very few people have even discovered they were switched in the hospital at birth. Even if you don't find any drama, it can be fascinating. Welcome to Midlife Dialogues. My name is Leslie, and today I'm talking about which DNA test you might want to take. Here's my answer. It depends on what you're looking for. Today I'm going to talk about AncestryDNA. By the way, that is the same as Ancestry.com, which is where you go to buy the AncestryDNA kit and also to access your results. There are three main reasons people take DNA tests. One, for genealogy, to find relatives and learn about their ancestors and build their family tree. Two, for ethnicity, to find out where their ancestors came from. Three, for health, to learn about their health and predisposition to certain diseases. Let's look at how AncestryDNA handles each of these three areas. Number one, genealogy. I am a genetic genealogy geek who's been heavily into this DNA genealogy world for many years. In my opinion, if you're trying to put together your family tree, AncestryDNA is the test to take. 100%. It's a no-brainer. Genealogy is where the AncestryDNA test excels over all the other tests. As of November 2022, the most recent data I could find, Ancestry had more than 22 million people in its DNA database. That is the most by far of all the DNA testing companies. It's the biggest sea, so to speak. And so that's where you want to swim if you're looking for DNA matches, so you can learn more about your family and genealogy. Here's how it works. When you take an AncestryDNA test, the company compares your DNA with other people who have tested there. It lets you know which of those 22 million people you share DNA with. Sharing DNA means you both inherited that bit of DNA from the same person. You and your DNA match are descended from a common ancestor. Ancestry can tell you how much DNA you share with someone and whether that person is likely to be your parent, grandparent, full sibling, half sibling, aunt, uncle, first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, and so on. You can reach out through Ancestry to that person, and if they are interested and respond to you, you can explore how you're related and exchange information about what you each know about your ancestry. That can really be a goldmine, although sometimes it doesn't work well if your biological family is recently from another country, one where DNA testing isn't available. Also, as a side note, there are a few groups that can get misleading DNA matches because of something called endogamy. These are groups like Ashkenazi Jews, Polynesians, Low German Mennonites, the Amish, and Acadians or Cajuns that married within the same ethnic, cultural, social, religious, or tribal group, meaning their descendants today have DNA from the same small genetic pool. If you are from one of those groups, you'll want to read more about endogamy and genetic genealogy. There is a lot of information online. I'll put a link to a couple resources below. Also, you need to know that no DNA testing company is just going to send you a printout of your family tree, although wouldn't that be great? Maybe artificial intelligence will help us with that at some point. But for now, it takes research on your part. So while you're waiting for your AncestryDNA test to come back, which might take 6 to 8 weeks, definitely go into Ancestry.com and create a family tree as best you can. When you see whose DNA you match, you can look at their family tree, if they have one, and see where you share an ancestor. Ancestry also uses people's family trees to suggest how you might be related to others. Now, when you look at other people's family trees, always take what you see with a huge grain of salt. People's family trees are only as accurate as they are careful and knowledgeable about what they're doing. There are tons of errors in people's online family trees, tons, but that doesn't mean they can't be useful. Other people's family trees can help you find things that you did not even know to search for. Use what other people know or think they know about their ancestors as hints or suggestions, and confirm each data point yourself. You can do that right at Ancestry.com if you have a subscription. You don't need a subscription to test your DNA. A subscription is to use their extensive online digitized records collection for research. It lets you look at census records and birth, marriage, and death certificates, and much, much more. All of which you can do right from your desk or your couch. Ancestry.com says it has more than 40 billion records, billion with a B, for more than 80 countries. And 70% of that digitized content, according to the company, is unique to Ancestry. An article from 4 years ago that I found said Ancestry was adding 2 million records to its database every day, and that the oldest record in their collection was from the year 1,300. It's an astonishing resource, and I say that as someone who did genealogy back when you had to go in person to look at records or send an international money order overseas and then wait for weeks only to find out there was no such record. Don't underestimate Ancestry.com's collection of records for genealogical research. This is a good book about genetic genealogy that also includes information about adoption. The Family Tree Guide to DNA Testing and Genetic Genealogy by Blaine T. Bettinger. I'll put this and other links down below in the description box. Number 2, ethnicity. When you test with AncestryDNA, in addition to DNA matches, they also prepare a report with estimates about your ethnicity. The company has a reference panel made up of people from all around the world with deep and well-documented roots in more than 1,800 regions. They compare your DNA to this reference panel and prepare a report showing you how similar your DNA is to people in these areas. This is how they estimate where in the world your DNA is from. Your report will show you percentages. 30% of your DNA matches people from this place, 20% from that place, etc. Ancestry shows your ethnicities and DNA matches broken down by parental side. So they'll say these matches and this set of ethnicities are from one of your parents, and these are from the other. Even if your parents haven't had their DNA tested, in which case you will see your ethnicities and DNA matches separated into lists labeled Parent 1 and Parent 2. You'll need to figure out which list goes with which parent, but you can often figure that out by seeing which cousins or names come up on one side or the other, or maybe by studying your DNA matches family trees. These ethnicity estimates are occasionally updated as the science of DNA advances and Ancestry adds more samples to their reference panels. Ancestry also adds new regions over time, so with every update, your results become more precise. So the fact that your ethnicity estimates change over time is actually a good thing. This ethnicity information is always an estimate, and it's more finely tuned as time and science advance. Some people who don't know a lot about all this DNA and ethnicity research say, but I know I'm half this and half that, and that's not what these results say, so they're just wrong. There's a lot to address there. First, it's very possible you've grown up with information that is not genetically accurate, not because people were telling untruths, but because stories aren't always passed down correctly. Or maybe your ethnicity is coming back as part of a broad region, but your family knows the more precise area. Or maybe a couple generations back, or before that, or even more recently, someone was adopted or had a different father than the person on the birth certificate, and maybe no one alive today knows that. Your genes tell the story about your actual genetic ethnicity, not cultural ethnicity, or what your family lore says. Another thing that's sometimes poorly understood is when siblings get different ethnicity estimates. People ask, we both have the same parents, so why isn't it the same? But while you inherit half of your mom's genes and half of your father's, it's a random inheritance. Each child doesn't necessarily inherit the same half from each parent. So say your mother is half Italian and half Japanese. Maybe you inherited 15% of her Italian genes and 35% of her Japanese ones. Maybe your sister got more of the Italian genes and fewer of the Japanese ones. Maybe your parent had a small amount of Polynesian ancestry and you didn't inherit any of that, but one or more of your siblings did. This is why it's so helpful to test your brothers and sisters too when possible, to get the best overview of your family's ethnicities. And if you can test your parents or grandparents, that's even better. The more DNA testing you do and the further back in your family line you can test, the more information you can gather. Number 3, health and predisposition to disease. You can pay a little bit more for AncestryDNA plus traits. That explores more than 40 genetic traits that are related to appearance, fitness, nutrients, sensory issues, and other personal characteristics. This can tell you how your genes impact your freckles or your hatred for cilantro, for instance. If this is the main thing you're interested in, health and predisposition to disease, AncestryDNA is not the company I would recommend. They provide some information, but they're not the most comprehensive DNA testing for health-related information. However, if you're doing an AncestryDNA test anyway, it's only a small charge to add on the traits. You might consider it. To summarize, AncestryDNA is hands down the first test I would do if I were looking for information about my ancestry, meaning genealogy and family tree. Because they have the biggest DNA database by far, That's where you have the best chance of matching with other relatives. Also, Ancestry's online interface at ancestry.com is very user-friendly and easy to work with, in my opinion. Have you taken an Ancestry DNA test and learned something interesting? Tell us in the comments if you'd like. And check out my other DNA test kit reviews coming soon. Thanks, and see you again soon.